So if you're struggling with your prayer life, you might want to check yourself according to these passages, because I'm going to read two passages from the book of James. And when I say you might want to check yourself, I say this just to edify, because sometimes we think that, God is not answering our prayers. God is not working and moving on our behalf. We get in a habit of going to other people for prayers, and we don't take the time to develop a prayer life or understand prayer. And so there's 2 points in the book of James. It's actually 2 scriptures that I want to highlight to you all. So James chapter 4, I'm just going to go ahead and read. It says, "You lust and do not have, you murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight in war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasures. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." Okay, so we're going to break this down. So where it's saying, first of all, we're talking about you lust and do not have, right? You have desires, right? There's another translation in the NIV that says that this is causing fights. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Do they come from your desires that battle within you, right? You have desires, you have things that you want, but you're not asking God. But then when you go to ask, you're not receiving because you ask amiss. The word amiss means asking for the wrong reasons. So we got to check our heart posture. When we're going to pray for things, what's in our hearts? Why are we asking for this specific thing? Okay, what is it that what's in our hearts that we're going before the Lord to expect to receive something, but we're not receiving it? Is saying because you're asking for the wrong reasons, right? You ask so that you may spend it on your pleasures, right? This is about yourself. This is pridefulness, right? So it's saying, do you know that friendship with the world is enmity? What does enmity mean? Opposition. So when you're going and praying for certain things, ask yourself, you have to do a heart check. What is it that we're really after when we're praying? Or when we're asking other people to pray for us, we have to be mindful of what we're asking others to pray for us. Because the same thing, I'm not going to go into detail, but the same thing, right? We can, anybody can discern what it is that you're asking them to pray for. That's not something, I may not go to God and pray on behalf of somebody else, because that's lustful or prideful, right? So we have to ask ourselves, okay, what is in our hearts when we're going before the Lord and wanting to receive something in prayer? Okay, skipping down to James chapter 5, this is verse 16. "Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed." Okay, the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. The word righteous means, of course, to walk upright, okay? Fervent means passionate, right? And avail means to be of use or have an advantage. So when you have an advantage, right, you're more likely to succeed than someone else when you have an advantage. So how do we have an advantage in our prayer life? When we're walking upright, when we are righteous. Now, does this mean if you are not walking upright that you won't get your prayers answered? I'm not necessarily saying that, but according to this passage, it says that the fervent prayers of the righteous, those who are in right standing with God, they avail much. They're more likely to succeed, right? Your prayers are favorable. They're useful, right? Not only just for yourself, but for others, because the beginning of that passage says, "Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed." So we have to think of again, this comes back to our posture, right? Where we are at. If we're saying, I've been praying, nothing's happening, you need to examine yourself according to the word. Are you living right? Are you walking right? Are you in right standing with God? Is your life right, glorifying God? If not, we can't say, well, God won't answer our prayers. You have to find, where you stand in His word and go from there. Okay, so I hope this message could encourage anybody who was watching this in regards to enhancing your prayer life. And I will see y'all in my next video.